If you've been watching me for a while, you know that I love covering the origins of cursed images, which is why I haven't made any videos about them in 6 months. Whether I uncover the origins myself or just find an already completed or ongoing search that's interesting, I think that learning where these strange, kinda creepy images came from is pretty cool. But if you want to know where some straight up creepy images came from, we have to turn our sights elsewhere. We have to look at creepypasta images. I've covered these a couple times in the past in both some older and newer videos, but I've never dedicated an entire video to just creepypasta images and where they came from. That's for a couple reasons. One, most creepypasta images have really easy origins to track down. Just as a quick example, let's take a look at Funny Mouth. This is a semi-obscure creepypasta by Slime Beast, and it's got an image that I think is decently creepy. If you do literally like 1 minute of research though, you'll discover that the image is just an edited photo of Slime Beast himself. That's cool and all, but so many creepypastas have relatively uninteresting origins like this. The second reason for me not doing a full creepypasta images video yet is that a lot of the more popular creepypasta images all have relatively well-known origins at this point, or they have origins that are too obscure. Jeff the Killer, for example, has an unknown origin, which I think at this point is talked about more than the story itself. So, what can I cover then? Well, I've managed to narrow things down to 6 images that have origins that I find to be interesting. You may already know where some of these came from, but I've tried to stick to images that I personally haven't seen many people talk about, if at all. Of course, that doesn't mean I'm the first to cover them, but I'm hoping that this all should be relatively new information. None of the creepypastas here will be too obscure either, but I'm going to be giving a basic summary of each one anyway, just in case you're unfamiliar. Of course, I am going to be focusing on the images, so if you want more detailed info on the stories themselves, go read them. With all that said, if you enjoyed this video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe, as it really helps me out. And now, without further ado, let's get into the first image. I'm going to try to keep this section short because if you're in the creepypasta community at all, you probably already know this one. Victim number 1 is an image most commonly associated with the Mario creepypasta. It's a weird story since, unlike 99% of creepypastas, it's true. The original creepypasta was actually a dramatized retelling of a guy's playthrough of a real ROM hack that he found on Super Mario World Central. Everything described in the creepypasta is just what's in the ROM hack, but worded to seem more like a spooky internet story. I won't bore you with details on what happens since it's not relevant here, but what's important for this video is that the hack has an image hidden within a text file which is known as Victim Number 1, named after the murder victim described after beating the first castle. Now, this image is clearly an edited face. As a kid, I always assumed it was real since, well, the story is real, but obviously that makes no sense in hindsight. I never really gave much thought to what the original image was though, aside from just an edited, probably screaming face. That is, until 2023. Apparently a search for the original image had been going on for a while, and on September 1st of that year, the user God on the Victim Cord, a Discord server dedicated to finding the Victim Number 1 image, well, found it. Turns out it's an edited photo of a cosplayer dressed as Kyo from the band Duran Gray, taken by Flickr user J3SSL33 in 2007. The image might be of J3, considering it's titled Creepy Me, but whether it is or not, this is 100% the origin. The reason why I can say that is because the guy who created the edit, Jordan Davis, confirmed that this is the image he used after it got found. Jordan Davis is a member of the band Common Man Down, and he created the Victim Number 1 image as part of an ARG for his band, which was then taken and used in the Mario creepypasta later. If you're interested in learning more about why exactly this image ended up in Mario, I'll link a video by Hey Peter in the description, which will go slightly more in depth. Just keep in mind that I've already gone over all the important details here. That's about it for Victim Number 1's origin. I wanted to start with this one since at this point it's pretty common knowledge that the original image was found, and I'm only covering it in the first place because last time I mentioned it was found, people thought I was saying it wasn't. So, I just want to make it clear, it was. Is it incredibly petty of me to make a video just to dispute 2 or 3 comments from like a year ago? Yeah, probably. But I also think that's funny, so here we are. Of course, the real reason why I wanted to cover this image is because I find it interesting, and I don't want to dismiss the efforts that went into finding victim number 1. I think it's awesome that Victim Cord was able to find the origin, and it's really cool that such an iconic creepypasta image has had its creation so well documented, down to even the detail of who created the edits and why. As great as all that is though, I don't want to bore you all by covering stuff you probably already know about, even if it is cool. So let's move on to something a little more obscure. Okay, as a creepypasta, the Rake is not any more obscure than Mario. Hell, it might even be more popular. However, its image, or rather images, are a little more shrouded in mystery. If you somehow don't know the Rake, it's more of a cryptid than a proper creepypasta, having been created on 4chan in 2005 with the intent of making a new cryptid. The most popular version of the story describes several encounters with the Rake, with the main one being a couple's encounter which ends in their daughter's death. It's honestly kinda unremarkable, and fittingly, most of the images aren't anything all that interesting. They're all easily traceable pieces of fan art, though there are 2 pieces that I want to briefly cover before going over the iconic trail cam picture. The first is this one, which is directly based on the creepypasta, depicting the Rake sitting on the bed as described in the story. It's a fine image, not that creepy in my opinion, but perfectly serviceable as visuals for the creepypasta, and it is a very well made drawing. This one was incredibly easy to track down, just a bit of basic reverse image searching, and I was able to find the original DeviantArt posts by the Icky Man. As far as I can tell, this is the original artist, since they have other Rake artworks that have the exact same art style. Unfortunately, they don't seem to be too active anymore, but if you're a fan of this Rake image, I definitely would recommend checking out their other drawings. The second piece of artwork I looked into was this one, which is the Rake image for me, even beyond the trail cam photo. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to find much on it. Even finding it in the first place was hard because of the blood. No clue why, but despite the fact that I had safe search off, Google still refused to show it to me. Shitty search engine aside, I did eventually find it, and after plugging it into TinEye and some other reverse image search engines like CopySeeker, I found nothing. I was able to find this one instance of it on a forum from 2008, but it's absolutely not the origin. I think, most likely, it was created for and posted first in the original 4chan thread. After all, the art is dated 2005, and that's the same year the thread was created. It is 100% possible that it was created before the thread and the artwork was only used as reference for what the Rake should look like, but personally I think that's unlikely. It being so early on would also explain the weird metal claws, which don't fit with how the Rake is typically portrayed, but I think that could have been an early idea for the creature itself. Since the thread is lost though, we don't know for sure. What we do know a bit more concretely though, is where the trail cam photo came from. You may have heard before that it was a piece of promotion for the game Resistance 3, but that's just a fake rumor that was spread after Insomniac Games jokingly retweeted the image, saying it was a grim from the game. Where it did come from is this thread on the forum Archery Talk, where it was posted in 2010 by the user Hillbilly Willy. It's definitely a fake image, but what's interesting is that it's not supposed to be the Rake. This was supposed to be a sighting of the Berwick Monster, or New Louisiana Swamp Monster, which is a cryptid that, as far as I can tell, was created by this thread. Interestingly, the date on the photo is from a few days before the post was made, but I think that was just for credibility's sake. Most likely, given this is the earliest recorded instance of the Rake trail cam photo, this is the origin. How it eventually got associated with the Rake is unknown to me, though if I had to guess, it's just that it matches the appearance described in the creepypasta. The Rake is a weird case. There's a lot of misinformation about how it was created, given the original 4chan thread is lost, and the images themselves have been spread so far that they have widely accepted false origins. Ironically though, I think that helps the story out. Cryptids aren't really known for having concrete origins to trace back to. Usually they just start out as basic urban legends, eventually getting more and more traits as people spread the legends around. And as an internet cryptid, the Rake is no different. I may find the creepypasta boring, but I can't say that it hasn't done what it set out to do. The fact that 21 years later, we're still out here talking about the uncertainty of where the Rake came from and what exactly it is, means it's just as much of a cryptid as any that came before it. Okay, so that was where this section was going to end, but as I was editing this, I think I might have actually found the artist behind the Rake art from 2005. So, first things first, I realized that I needed an image of my search results not showing the image I was talking about. Of course, now is when Google decides to actually show it to me, meaning I had to just crop it out, but not only that, it showed me a higher quality version of the image. This was also on a Reddit thread asking about the origin of the artwork, and out of curiosity, I decided to take a look and see if anyone actually found the artist. Shockingly, somebody actually did, and after looking more into it myself, I think we may have found them. This is Abby Roziak, a tattoo artist who has been in the industry for over 20 years. I'm mentioning that because I highly doubt that someone who's been a professional artist for that long would lie about making the one drawing of the Rake just to put it in her portfolio. Not only that, but her art style does look similar, having a big focus on realism and high contrast, and on older versions of her portfolio, it mentions her specifically being a horror artist. Also, take a look at the signature again. Doesn't it look like it says Abby? Maybe a bit of a stretch, but take a look at this piece from Abby's portfolio. It has the exact same signature. This drawing also has 0 other instances on Tenai, so I think that unless there's some crazy conspiracy here about a well-established and I guess popular tattoo artist stealing other people's work, this is the artist. We actually do know who drew the original Rake image after all. Okay, so this one is going to require a little more explaining. First things first, this man is arguably not a creepypasta. It's an old hoax about people seeing, well, this man in their dreams, as documented by a psychiatrist. The original site features theories for what he is, like that he's an embodiment of Jungian archetype theory, a guy actually surfing or invading dreams, or people just having poor memory of their dreams and only dreaming about this man after hearing about him. It's a really cool concept, and it's one that even got semi-adapted into a film called Dream Scenario. That movie is very different from what I was just describing, but I think it's great. Definitely recommend it if you like this man. Anyway, while this man is not a creepypasta in the traditional sense, I did used to see it spread around, especially back in the early 2010s, in the same way as a lot of creepypastas. So, for the purposes of this video, it counts. Now, who actually is this man? Your immediate guess is probably that it's a police sketch, or just a sketch in general, and while that is kind of correct, that's also not exactly what the image is. This man was not created as a police sketch, or even just a regular sketch. Well, kind of. I found this information out from Tom Scott's third video on meme movies, but apparently this man was created on a mobile app, or maybe a flash game called Ultimate Flash Face. Don't worry, I checked for myself. I didn't just take Mr. ASDF Movie's word at face value, and I do believe this is likely how it was created. Not only that, but this man's creator, Andrea Natella, did an interview with Vice where he confirmed this was how he made the image. Now, it is worth mentioning that this interview was done in character as if this man was real. However, considering Natella did provide the interview with a link to Ultimate Flash Face, I don't think that part was a joke. Also, even if he was for some reason joking about this, the styles of Flash Face and this man are nearly identical, aside from both being based on police sketches, so I think there is a very low chance this isn't how the image was created. I also was able to find an article claiming that Natella based the photo on his father, though I couldn't find a further source on that claim. That's about all I wanted to cover though. This man remains a really interesting concept to me, and I hope that one day I can go more in depth about all the weird stuff surrounding his creation and legacy. For now though, I'll leave things here. We know who this man was created by, how he was made, and likely who he was based on. And that's enough for me, so before I start repeating myself too much, let's move on to the next image. Right after this break. I Am God is probably not a creepypasta you think of very often. Hell, you might not even think of it as a creepypasta. However, I think it shares enough DNA with the medium to count as one, at least for the purposes of this video. Basically, it's an old 4chan thread, where this guy named PC describes how his friend's laptop started having issues, which he thought was a virus. After getting it back from the repair shop though, his lights start flickering and his TV starts turning on by itself, which the users in the thread suggest is due to the computer using too much power, though PC claimed this would be impossible since the laptop was rarely plugged in. Someone then asks to see one of the corrupted files, which PC thinks is the issue, which is later discovered to be part of a face, specifically a forehead. Then the chin is sent, followed by the eyes and later the nose, creating this image. This is the God's face image, referred to as such due to code hidden within it, containing text saying, "I am God." You know, if I had a nickel for every time an old creepypasta contained the phrase, "I am God," I'd have at least 3 nickels. I'm gonna be rich! Anyway, with the context behind the image out of the way, what exactly is it? I mean, a face, obviously, but whose face is this? Originally, I had assumed this was another This Man situation, where it was a drawing or a digitally created face just based on somebody, but it turns out this is actually a real photo, or actually, I should say, 2 photos put together. After doing a little bit of research, I was able to find several sources, most notably the Lost Media Wiki, claiming that the face is that of the creator of the ARG, Jess Paname. I was able to uncover a Facebook post from the man himself confirming this, so without a doubt, this is the person in the image. Where things get interesting though, is that despite having images of Jess's face which seem to line up pretty well with the original image, they're not the same. That's because they're just recreations Jess took, as he no longer has the original 2 photos used to make God's face. According to an interview done by the Spanish YouTuber Yuka, I hope I got that right, Jess created the God face using 2 different images of his face, one at the top and one at the bottom. Then he simply distorted it, which in hindsight is really obvious. I don't know why I thought this one could have been a drawing. Now, this is the end of the search for right now. We have 100% confirmation on what the image is, and Jess claims that the original photos were on his old Photobucket accounts. So, if he ever gains access to it again, the original God's Face photos will become unlost. Unfortunately, it's been almost 2 years, and nothing has come out of that, so I have to assume Jess hasn't been successful in getting his account back. That really sucks, and I hope he gets access to it again someday soon. But personally, I'm content in knowing who the man behind the face is, especially when we have such concrete proof. Alright, this one will be quick. 1999 is about an old public access TV show that the narrator watched called Mr. Bear's Cellar, which was actually a way for Mr. Bear to lure kids to his house and kill them. There's obviously a lot more details than that, but that's the basic idea of it. There's a couple images associated with the story, but one of the more popular ones is this, since, yeah, that's Mr. Bear, dude. To be fair, it's not 100% accurate, since the story describes it as being a bear costume, while this image is just a bear mask, but still. It definitely makes the story feel more real, even though, as you'll soon see, this image is inaccurate in more ways than one. Finding the source was incredibly easy. I put Mr. Bear into Tanai and immediately found out it's a stock photo. not just that, but it's a stock photo of a woman. The whole time, this has been a Miss Bear. Now, the link Tinai provided me was dead, but I was able to find the Mr. Bear image on Shutterstock, so it's still available for purchase as a stock image. I don't know why you would ever need this, but honestly, by weird stock image standards, this one is pretty tame. The image itself is described as close-up portrait of a woman wearing a bear mask. Cute, unusual, lonely. And it was taken by the user, Bjorn, who also has some photos of a man in a pig mask. Originally I thought maybe this meant the bear mask photo was part of a set, but it turns out these were uploaded about 3 years apart. I'm also unsure on who exactly the woman in this photo is. If I had to guess, it's the same woman that appears in other photos uploaded by this person, which might be Bjorn herself? I was able to find a Flickr account under the same name with a profile picture that matches one of the stock photos, and both accounts feature profile pictures of seemingly the same woman. However, it's also possible Bjorn is the man often appearing in these stock photos, if not someone else entirely, so take this all with a grain of salt. But yeah, that's pretty much it for Mr. Bear. I did also want to try to find the origin for this other image which I commonly see associated with the 1999 creepypasta, but I couldn't find anything on it. I'm pretty sure it's a photo of this costume that I was able to find, but the exact origin of the photo is unknown to me. My theory is that given the oldest result I was able to find on Tinai was from DeviantArt, it could be a photo that was actually based on the creepypasta. Given that the DeviantArt post Tinai showed me is now deleted and there's no archive of it, I can't say that for sure. Still, it's definitely from around 2014 to 2015, the same time period as the other image I talked about. Hopefully one day we'll know where this other Mr. Bear image came from, but for now, I'm happy with knowing where the more famous of the two came from. For the last image in this video, I want to cover a famous one that strangely I've never seen talked about. Do I even need to give you a summary on Red Mist? Or, as you probably know, it's Squidward's suicide. If you somehow don't know what it is, basically it's one of the first and most popular lost episode creepypastas, which are about an episode of a show, usually a children's cartoon, that's lost because it contains all of the characters dying horribly with hyper-realistic blood everywhere. They're usually really bad. I'll give them credit, sometimes they have okay ideas, but the only one I know of that I would say is any good is Nickelodeon Resignation Incident 2009. Even so, that one still isn't great, but it has a bit more going on than just being another story about a lost SpongeBob episode where a character kills himself. Which is exactly what Red Mist is. That's all besides the point though, as what we're here to talk about is the image commonly associated with Red Mist, as I'll have to be dubbing it. Now, obviously, it's Squidward. I found the exact picture of him that was used, which I believe is promo art from 1999. It may be slightly newer than that, but I found several sources which refer to it as being from 1999, so I'm inclined to believe that's when it's from. Where things get interesting is when we look at the edits made to Squidward. His eyes, for one, are kind of reddish and hollow, but if you're familiar with creepypasta at all, they might look a little familiar. Well, turns out, these are Smile Dog's eyes. I actually originally wanted to end this video on Smile Dog, but there's a whole bunch of information about the images associated with it, and honestly it deserves its own video. For the sake of time, I'll ignore all that stuff, so all you need to know is that this red Smile Dog image, as I like to call it, has had part of its origin found for a while now, and it's this photo of a husky. As you can see, the husky's eyes are the same as the one on the Smile Dog image, just distorted slightly to make it look more off-putting. These eyes were later taken and thrown onto the Red Mist Squidward image. That only leaves one more part of the image left to find, the background. Unfortunately, I can't find the original photo, or really any information on it, but upon doing some research, I stumbled upon this Reddit thread where people discussed the origin of the image. There were a lot of theories about the background, ranging from it being the Krusty Krab, a doorway, or even a fridge. However, the one that I think is most likely is that it's a distorted photo of someone's window. That's how I've always seen it, and I think the black part of the image is likely some kind of curtain or drape. Finding the exact image is likely impossible due to how generic it is, and that's assuming it's even online at all. It just as easily could have been the window of whoever made this edit. That does bring me to the last thing I want to talk about here. See, this image isn't the original Red Mist Squidward image. I know, that might be a huge shock to you all, since this is such an iconic image, it got referenced in an actual SpongeBob episode, but this wasn't the original photo. Now, Red Mist was first published on 7chan, a 4chan alternative, which is pretty much just a direct clone of 4chan. The story itself isn't any different. In fact, if you go to the Creepypasta wiki, you can find the exact same version, but what is different is the image. Instead of an image depicting what Squidward looks like in the episode, we get a strange, hyper-realistic Squidward that's also yellow for some reason. For the life of me, I couldn't find any info on this image. I only knew about it because of it being present on wiki pages mentioning the original 7chan thread, which is how I learned of it at all. But they never included a source for the image. The file name wasn't any help either, as it's just called Squidward Teenager, and searching that up only brought me that one Squidward Community College meme. After a bunch of searches that brought me nowhere, I tried reverse image searching. CopySeeker and Tineye were completely useless. Bing, I thought, maybe could have shown me an original DeviantArt page, but it was a false lead. I also found this thing on some random Chinese reverse image search I have as part of a Firefox plugin. Anyway, I was able to find what I think is likely the origin. Google reverse image search came in clutch as it showed me a Facebook page of the image, but this time it had a watermark. This watermark is for freakingnews.com, an old Photoshop website that has been defunct since 2020. Given this watermark is for a Photoshop site, I think this is likely the origin. I was pretty sure this was a Photoshop of a real octopus, that would explain the yellow coloring anyway, and this is as direct of confirmation as I think I can get, at least on that front. Unfortunately though, that's all I know. I wasn't able to reverse image search further to find a specific thread or something where the image was created, and given that Freaking News is now down and hasn't been properly archived at all, I have no idea who created this image and when. It has to be from April 2010 at the latest, given that's when the original 7chan Red Mist thread was created, but I think it's likely even older than that, though it can't be any earlier than October 2003, since that's when Freaking News opened. If any of you happen to know any more details about this image's origin, please let me know in the comments. But honestly, I'm just glad that I was able to track down most of what went into the real Red Mist Squidward image. Obviously the background picture is still unknown, but I'm pretty confident that it's just a window of some sorts, so we can say that the image is mostly solved, at the very least. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video. I had a lot of fun researching where these images came from, and I'm honestly shocked I was able to track down at least partial origins for all of them. With cursed images, it's a lot harder to find concrete origins, especially since I like covering more unknown ones, and I think it's possible that creepypasta images being so widespread back in the early 2010s is to thank for these images being so much easier to track down. Think about it, even slightly more obscure creepypastas like 1999 or God's Face still have people who remember them, and because they have stories and names attached to them instead of just being weird images out in the wild, they're more memorable. So, when people inevitably remember them and wonder where they came from, the searches get more publicity, which leads to Reddit threads and articles like the ones I've been sourcing throughout this video. Sure, I use similar sources when it comes to cursed images as well, but sometimes those take me hours to find, and sometimes they're not even correct. All of that to say though, if you like this video, please let me know in the comments. I have more creepypasta images I could talk about, and I'd also love to hear some suggestions for more images to cover in the future. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching. Stay safe out there, and good night.